What's up guys, it's Liam from TCG Ireland, and today I've got a machining deck profile for you guys today. What we have here is the deck I took to regionals in Manchester, and the fact that I got grade stuck, really I couldn't play the deck, but this deck is almost pure machining, bar 2 cards which are perfect cards. It really helped, it really does help the main box card of the deck. I don't run the break ride because people who know Megacolony the clan, and actually people who are worth their salt in general, will not run the break ride in a deck that requires a special counterblasts like this one does. But people just ignore that anyway, and they don't have good results, so people just automatically think, oh, the break ride just makes the deck, and they're wrong. I've played Machines since, oh god, probably February this year, and I know how to make Megacolony decks, needless to say. So our starters machine it'll be, I use Machining Stag Beetle, so this actually works. People actually run this card with the Break Ride and Spark Hercules. It sits on the field doing fuck all. You don't use this card if you want that kind of deck. But because people are just retarded and go, oh, BT15, yeah, BT15 is a good starter for cards that when you know how to use the deck, you use this card. You use like Battler C or whatever it is, the one that stuns, it counterblast one to stun, and then there's another card that's not in your soul, it's machining. So there you go. It gets you put it in the soul and you can stand another machining card, and if it's stood this way it gets 3k. It's an excellent card for Stag Beetle because you plus yourself 2, you neg yourself 1 and you stand a unit. It's workaround but better because you can give more power to your Vanguard than you could with workaround. So on to triggers. I don't run draw triggers because they are non-machining, as you might have figured out already. If you haven't, we didn't get draw triggers for machining. Machining Scorpion, 4 crit. It is an 8/4/4, but it is 4 crit, 8 stand in the form of Mass Production Sailor Cicada, and it's also, if you got Machining in the soul when it's placed, it gets plus 3k, so it's like Hornet and Mantis. Then 4 heal because you need heal, simple as. It works extremely well because this deck is a rush deck, believe it or not. Yeah, it's a rush deck, nothing more to say. It's mid and early game, hits people with high numbers, and there you go, there you have it, that's what you do. I run 2 quintets. 2 quintets are good for this deck. You generally don't see 2 quintets in a game unless you're unlucky or whatever. It also cuts down the fact that you've got non-machining cards in the deck, but it's still a very good card. And also, if you're forced to ride it, you ride that over a perfect guard, instead of a perfect guard, and you've got a machine in the soul still. So you can call it for whatever reason. Then I run 2 Paralyzed Madonna. 2-2 has worked because I've used this since the start. I've tried every ratio. 2-2 is the best. People really don't listen when it comes to my Megacolony knowledge, but there you go. Then you run 3 Machining Hornet. When it's placed, it gets 3k if there's a machine in the soul. It's a very good card for rushing, and if you do happen to ride this turn 1, because when you ride it, it's a simultaneous ability, the Forerunner in this skill, there is a machine in the soul, so it does get 3k. So that's a 15k swing. What is not to like about that? And it's a good ride, but there's another ride that I prefer in this deck. So then after this you run 3 Machining Caucasus. This deck can handle the 6k body because you can use the grade 3s because you can hit 16 and 17. You can use the grade 2s because 8 of the 11 cards can hit 18 in one turn and 18 consistently, because this is a cross-ride meta, believe it or not, because you've got Drag Ruler, Rebirth, you know, some Minerva, so many other cards like that. But this is definitely the MVP, because if it attacks a Vanguard and it hits, you can choose, or if this boosts and it hits the Vanguard, you can stun an opponent's rearguard, which is excellent. It's so good. It makes the deck, you know, even more rushy than it actually is. Then we have 10k attackers, which is Black Soldier. It's also good for a ride if you're ever forced to ride it, but this is just kind of a filler type card. I then run Machining Mosquito, which is the Soul Charger when it's placed. It's like your Feluca, for instance. It's an extremely good card as well, because for Spark Hercules and Stag Beetle you need Soul, and that provides the Soul. It's a great turn 1 ride. So then we'll move on to the Grade 2s. Grade 2s, I run 1, 2, 3, 4. Red Soldier, it's a 12k swinger. Then I run the pseudo 12k swinger, Machine Mantis. I don't know why people don't run this card, because for a turn it's a 12k attacker. If you ride it, which is not a bad ride, you get a 12k attack, 17 with little B boosting. And then if you've got it here, and you swing for 12, and you get a stand trigger, then when you attack with the Vanguard, stand up, 17. You know, if your opponent, if you go first and you're swinging on against a grade 1, they are going to have a nightmare of a time trying to guard against you without going to 3 or 4 damage, you know. Then you run Machining Tarantula, Machining Tarantula. It becomes a Legion later on, and it's Counterblast 1 machining, so people might think, oh, it's a counterblast, same as the Quintet. But if you think about it, who's going to let that hit in their right mind, you know? I mean, there are times when you don't want to use it, but most of the time you will use it, because you can stun a rearguard that can attack you, and you don't want, if you don't want damage, you don't, you know, you attack with this. So you Counterblast 1 machining. You do have 5 damage to play with. 1 damage going towards this or a Quintet isn't going to be too bad. Now, people run Papio over this, but that's an 8k body, and really you want pressure. You don't want on-ride kind of stuff. On-ride stuff is nice, but this, you can use this when you want it. It's not just a dead card in your hand until you actually want to use it. Because what I find is, I usually guard off the Papio, and then when I need to use it, it's gone, and it also doesn't make good columns with anything in this deck. 15k is the most you're going to get out of it, or 18 if you've got a 10k booster behind it for a turn. So this is the best lineup in my opinion, even if it is an extra counterblast that you don't really have to play with. Then for grade 3s, I run 4 Stag Beetle. This card is mental because you can ride this first. You get a big power surge from the 2 cards you called out. Grade 1 and 2 is generally what I do. And you call out 2, you stick this in and stand up 1 and give it 3k. That's this Machining Mantis swinging for 15k. If I get a restand, you know, it's a 20k boost. It's a 20k column on its own, which might not be a lot, but it's still a 10k guard. And the 9 and the 7 from a rear guard, you know, that makes that 26k on its own. That's perfect guard fodder. That is all what this does, and it fills your field. It's a bit like Pale Moon, you know, just explosiveness and all that sort of stuff. And then once you've done that, you've ridden that, and then you ride this Spark Hercules, and you've got your 4 uncounterblasted damage. You can use this for 2 turns, because this is Limit Break 4, Counterblast 2, machining cards in its card name. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, if all your opponents Vanguard and Rearguard arrest, you can pay the cost and you get 10k in a crit and choose one of your opponent's rearguards and rest it. And it can't stand next turn. It's also got an act to hit cross rides. You Soul Blast 1 and you rest all of your opponent's rearguards and it gets plus 2k. So obviously it's geared against Rebirth, Drag Rider, Minerva, etc. etc. So when you've used up all your counter blasts for 2 turns, you can go back to this guy, because this guy is brilliant then late game, because you've been going, if you've got a decent enough booster, you've been going 21-23 plus a boost, 21-23 plus a boost for 2 turns, and before that you had 26k on its own. Then you ride this and you call out Little B, because that's sitting in the soul now. Call that out, call out probably Spark Hercules, and that's a 14k column in front of a 7k booster, 21k. And this guy has gained 16k again. It's push deck. It's brilliant. So that's what you could do with it. I've done it in the free fights whenever I actually got the, when I didn't get grade locked. And by that stage, four high-powered attacks like that, they've, unless they've got perfect guard after perfect guard after perfect guard and a massive hand size, they're really not going to do a whole lot with you. You can really push them to the limit with this deck. So that's my deck profile of Machinings. I hope you've all enjoyed it. It's a bit quicker because my camera is overheating. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.